Cops laugh at black man on trial, not knowing he's the head of the FBI. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and hit that like. It really helps us keep bringing these powerful stories to light. Bell collision. It all began with something small. A chuckle. Low. Sharp. Dismissive. Almost cruel. "Yo, look at this guy," Officer Jensen muttered, nudging his partner with a grin that barely masked the arrogance behind it. The reason? A tall, composed black man had just walked through the courtroom doors. His charcoal gray suit looked tailored, clean, sharp. The man's presence was quiet but commanding. Jensen squinted. Bet he's another one of those smooth-talking public defenders. Thinks he can bend the system with a smile and fancy words, he scoffed. His partner, Officer Burke, snickered in response. But the man? He didn't flinch. Didn't glance their way. Not even a twitch. His back remained straight, his steps even and unhurried. With respectful calm, he gave a nod to the judge and sat down silently. Third row from the front. Not too far. Not too close. To the officers, he was just another anonymous face in the crowd. Another black man in a courtroom. Another name, another body, another statistic. But that right there was their first mistake. Outside the courthouse, the media was everywhere. Cameras, reporters, live tweets, news fans. This trial had become the epicenter of public conversation. It all revolved around one young man, Darius Mitchell, a college student with a promising future, who now found himself buried in charges. Resisting arrest. Assaulting a police officer. The kind of charges that come with heavy assumptions. 2 months earlier, Darius had been walking home from a friend's place. According to the arrest report, the officers claimed he became aggressive and hostile. But something didn't sit right. The body cam footage? Vanished. The witness testimonies? All over the place. Conflicting and unclear. The officer's story? Sounded polished. A little too polished. Still, Jensen and Burke sat confidently behind their attorney, smug grins on their faces like they'd already won. Burke kept throwing glances toward the black man in the suit. "Who's this guy?" he whispered. "Probably some cousin trying to look important." Another laugh. Another jab. Another misjudgment. What they failed to see were the subtle cues. The respectful nods from court staff. The way the judge paused when the man walked in. Even the ADA hesitated, eyes darting to the man seated calmly in the gallery. But he said nothing. He just watched. And in front of him, Darius sat beside his public defender, his hands clutched in his lap like they were the only thing holding him together. His face looked hollow, not just from exhaustion but from a deeper place, a spiritual fatigue. Like this wasn't his first battle with injustice, just the latest one. His mother? She was just behind him, wringing her hands, eyes closed, lips moving silently in prayer. The defense painted the picture clearly. Darius had earbuds in. He hadn't heard the officers. When he noticed them rushing up behind him, guns holstered, but hands ready, he panicked. Who wouldn't? He raised his hands. Told them he had nothing. But they took him down anyway. On the stand, Officer Burke tried his best Oscar-worthy performance. "We feared for our safety," he said, his voice soaked in fake sincerity. But there were no bruises. No medical reports. Just paperwork. And a tired, repeated story we've all heard too many times. After the defense rested, the judge called for a brief recess. Everyone assumed closing arguments were up next. But then everything changed. The man in the suit stood. Calmly. With purpose. He walked past the lawyers. Past the stunned defendant. Until he stood face to face with the bench. "Your Honor," he said, his voice unwavering, calm but cutting. "If I may speak to the court briefly?" The judge sat up a little straighter. A slow, almost knowing smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Of course. Director Hayes," she replied. "You have the floor." The room froze. A ripple tore through the silence. "Director?" "Hayes." Officer Jensen's spine went stiff. Burke blinked like someone just turned on a spotlight. The man turned, this time addressing the courtroom. My name is Malcolm Hayes, he said, and I'm the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Gasps.
Real ones. One woman put a hand over her mouth. Darius's mother looked like her whole body went weak. Hayes continued, his tone unshaken. I didn't come here today wearing my title. I came here as a black man in America, because when I read this case file, I saw something I've seen too many times before. He looked directly at the two officers. I saw a young man judged not by his actions, but by his appearance. I saw missing footage. I saw convenient gaps. And worst of all, I saw two officers who refused to see the humanity standing right in front of them. Then he dropped the moment that silenced every breath in the room. I've been stopped too, he said. I've been followed around stores. I've had guns drawn on me while jogging in my own neighborhood. And the only difference between Darius and me is the suit and the badge I wear. The courtroom?
Still.
Frozen in realization. No more laughter. No more smugness. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, I'm not here to alter the ruling. But I urge this court, look at the pattern. This is about more than a single night. It's about a system, a deeply flawed one, where presence is mistaken for guilt and skin color becomes a perceived threat. He faced Darius now. His voice softened. You are not invisible, son. You matter. And you're not alone. What followed was silence, so deep it echoed. Officer Burke clenched his jaw. Jensen stared at the ground like it held the answers he'd never find. The jury? They didn't need long. Less than 2 hours later, the verdict. Not guilty. Outside, chaos erupted. News vans surrounded the courthouse. Clips of Hayes's speech flooded every platform online. But the man himself? He wasn't there for headlines. Instead, he stepped outside and found Darius and his mother standing quietly near the steps. Thank you, sir, Darius whispered, voice breaking. You didn't have to. Yes, Hayes said, cutting him off gently. I did. Because someday you'll do it for someone else. Later that night, Officer Jensen quietly handed in his badge. No press conference. No words. Just gone. Officer Burke? Suspended. The mayor's office issued a statement expressing deep concern about the systemic patterns this trial revealed. As for Director Hayes, he returned to Washington the next morning, sat at his desk, looked out at the Capitol, and thought about every time he'd clenched his jaw, stayed silent, swallowed his rage. But this time he spoke. Because respect shouldn't be earned through a title. Justice should never depend on appearance. And a man's worth? It should never, ever be defined by the color of his skin. Not everyone in that courtroom left changed. But some did. And sometimes that's all it takes to begin something new. In a world where judgment often shouts before understanding even whispers. One man's presence shook the system. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, remember, the quietest voices often carry the loudest truths. Studio microphone, Blackheart.